everybody, and welcome to the Kelly Green Hour. And it's legit Kelly Green Hour, as it's the first game with the new Kelly, well, old but new Kelly Green jerseys. I'm your host, LG Harrell, and I am joined today by Dobbs, Mr. Crockpot. What's going on, my friend?
How you doing, brother? Watching some Sixers basketball for an hour before we get to the real show, the Phillies, at 8 o'clock tonight.
Isn't it preseason?
It is preseason, but I'm a Sixers junkie, man. I'm a glutton for punishment, really. That's what it is.
The NBA doesn't get real until the conference finals, and your team will never see that, so it's fine.
You're not wrong.
Like, what did I call them a couple of weeks ago? The Dallas Cowboys. I called the Dallas Cowboys the Sixers of the NFL, whatever. No, but I appreciate you joining today on the Kelly Green Hour. Before,
not you Sixers.
Thanks for tuning us, Quentin. But before we get started, let all our listeners know where they can find you there, Dives.
Mr. Crockpot on X, but you can find me on this channel. You're sleeping under a rock if you can't find me. I've college football, NFL draft, Party on Broad, BGN Radio. I'm all over the place, but just again, thanks for having me on, man. This is literally like my favorite Eagles show of the week.
Oh, Connor and I definitely appreciate that. We like to have fun. I know, like, there's a lot of shows out there that like throw out the stats, and we're just two football fans that pretty much go based off of what we see on the screen, what we see on TV. But yeah, before we jump into this Eagles-Dolphins game, which should be one hell of a football game, please follow us on Twitter at Kelly Green Hour. You can follow me on Twitter at LJRL54, and you can follow Connor on Twitter at Connor10. That's Connor TEN. And follow Edge of Philly Sports on Twitter, YouTube, Facebook, everything. Just search Edge of Philly Sports. And if you are tuning in live, let us know your thoughts on the game. It should be a good one. I think it's going to be high scoring. If the Dolphins would have wore their throwback whites, it would have been a perfect uniform matchup. But those Kelly Greens are going to be popping at the link on Sunday night. I can't wait to see what it looks like on TV. I want to jump right in to the Eagles defense against this Dolphins offense, because we know they're putting up historic numbers. They put up 70 against the Denver Broncos a couple weeks ago. They could have put up more. I don't know how people were getting mad at the Dolphins for scoring. They were running the football and nobody was tackling Devin A-Chain. Like, what do you expect them to do? Take a knee for the entire second half? Mm-hmm. But the speed that they have on that team, Tyreek Hill, Jalen Waddle, Raheem Mostert, A-Chain, even though he's not playing, they traded for Chase Claypool. They have speed, and more speed. And when you look at the Eagles defense, there's two healthy safeties in Terrell Edmonds and Sidney Brown, who's a rookie. You have Darius Slay coming back from a knee injury. You have James Bradbury, who isn't the quickest. He's more of a physical, I want to get in your face type of corner. I have no idea how the Eagles are going to stop them. If the front four doesn't win their battles, it's going to be a long day for the Eagles defense.
Yeah, I think you nailed it. Like, that's the biggest matchup to watch. It's the Dolphins' motion offense that has potential to give the Eagles secondary all sorts of problems. Tyreek Hill, super fast. We all know it. Jalen Waddle, super fast. And the Eagles already went up against a couple of really good wide receivers in Cooper Kupp and Puka Nacua. Not like this. Not like this. This is different. Like, those are guys, like, kind of slot guys that, pick your poison. These guys are going to test a banged up Eagles secondary. It's going to be tough, man. It's going to be really tough. Sometimes, a great offense I think it's really going to boil down to the other side of the football field and keeping this passing attack off the field. But, like, I just want to throw this one to you a little bit, because I'm not one who studies the Dolphins. I'm not one who – I've only seen them play a couple times so far this season. But, like, are the Dolphins fool's gold? Like, there's so many Eagles fans already with their tail between their legs, man. This team is 5-1. They've beaten up on the Broncos, the Chargers, the Giants, the Panthers, and the Patriots. That's a combined 5-24 this year. And their loss came against the Buffalo Bills, where they lost by 28. And Josh Allen, who's a dual threat quarterback, ran all over this football team. So yeah, let's keep talking about the defense. But my point is, like, if you're a Cobra Kai fan, like I am, like sometimes the best defense is a great offense, and
So
that's in this one, the Eagles offense has to be clicking.
Well, yeah, I mean, if you remember the Washington game last year, the Eagles' first loss, what did Washington do? They held the ball for over 40 minutes. They kept the Eagles' offense off the field. They got third and manageable, like third and short every time. I think they converted like 15 third downs, it felt like. Mm-hmm. That's the way the Eagles are going to have to win the game. Like, I love the 4-play, 75-yard drive. Let's get the ball down the field, Devontae or AJ, and get into the end zone. But that hasn't been the Eagles' offense this year. Their first scoring drive last week was a 19-play drive, and they barely got in. They got fortunate to score that touchdown. So that's how the Eagles are going to have to win the game. Try to find a way to keep the Dolphins off the field. But even if you keep the Dolphins off the field, even if they only have 20 minutes of time of possession, they can still score in 3 plays and 75 yards. So it's hard. The catch-22. So I get what you're saying. It's up to the Eagles, because if the Eagles turn the ball over 4 times against Miami, it's over. It's a blowout. Look, I think the Dolphins are good. It all comes down to Tua being healthy, because if you remember last year, they were good, and then Tua got hurt, got the concussions, and just was done, and they couldn't win games. If Tua can stay healthy, they can be good. But you're right, like the teams they won, only 5 wins. Like, who's the best team the Eagles have beaten though?
Yeah, true.
So, like, this stretch coming up, this gauntlet of games, starting with the Dolphins, and then we get to Washington, and then Dallas, and then the Chiefs, and then the Bills, and then this gauntlet's going to tell a lot about the Eagles. But also the Dolphins have the Eagles, then they have the Patriots next week, then they have the Chiefs in Germany. So, like, we're about to find out about both of these teams over the next couple of weeks, which like you said, you want to know, like, the Eagles made that run last year, but like the schedule was real easy. The quarterbacks they faced weren't good. And then when they faced, Patrick Mahomes, he lit the defense. Like, did he have an incompletion in the second half or something like that in the Super Bowl? And I mean, obviously, I don't want to invoke his name, but Jonathan Gannon had a lot to do with that, because he didn't want to make any adjustments. Tua, like, so being an Alabama fan, I saw a lot of Tua. Jalen Waddle, if he didn't get hurt, I don't know if Devontae Smith wins the Heisman, because Jalen got hurt. Devontae Smith went off with Tua. We know what they can do. It's going to come down to that. You mentioned it. You had said something in our chat. If Jalen Carter played last week, he's wrecking the middle. He's wrecking the game.
Yeah.
And it's not like the Jets offense did much anyway. They scored field goals until the Eagles allowed them to score at the end. The center for the Dolphins is questionable, Connor Williams. Their backup is not good.
Yeah.
Even if Connor Williams plays with Jalen Carter there, like, the best way for the Eagles to stop this Dolphins defense or offense, get pressure on Tua. Yeah. Because what Tua is going to want to do is what all quarterbacks do against the Eagles. 1, 2, 3, I'm getting rid of the football. Not giving Hassan Reddick, Josh Sweat, not giving them guys a chance to get upfield to get to him. And with the receivers with Hill and Waddle, they'll do slants. If they catch it in the open field, good luck trying to tackle them.
Yeah.
So that's what it's going to come down to. Are the Eagles able to get pressure on Tua and stop Mostert in the run game? What I think they're going to do, Miami's going to do, what the Eagles did a lot last year. What did the Eagles do last year? They would pass early, get a big lead, sit on the ball in the second half. That's why they won the time of possession, had the number 1 rushing offense. The Dolphins have the number 1 passing offense, the number 1 rushing offense this year. And that's kind of how they're doing it. Let's get an early lead, run the football in the second half, kill the clock. And if the Dolphins are able to do that, it's going to be tough for this Eagles offense, which it seems like they have to go 15, 16, 17 plays to score.
Yeah, it's the way. Yeah, this is a horrible matchup for the Eagles as they're currently constructed. It's absolutely terrible. And you nailed it. It's the way Tua plays. It's get the ball out fast. Get the ball to his playmakers. This guy has one of the shortest time before release in the league, and this guy doesn't get touched. When he does get pressured, though, his stats aren't good. You look at Tua under pressure this year, 37 attempts, 40% completion percentage, 1 touchdown, 2 interceptions, 6.4 yards per attempt, and 5 sacks. The more I kind of looked into the Dolphins, especially offensively, the more you get really scared because like they're elite pretty much on every facet. And when Tua's stats, when he's kept clear, his numbers are god tier. Like they're so good. So like you said, the rushing attack is great. Even the Dolphins offensive line is really underrated. This dude, Kendall Lamb, is number 1 in the NFL among offensive tackles with a pass blocking rate of 97%. So far, he's only allowed 10 total pressures and 0 sacks on 311 snaps at left tackle. So it's going to be interesting to see how this Eagles defense handles the Miami offense. It really comes down to which team can make the other team one-dimensional as soon as possible. The Eagles' run defense has been terrific. And you said the Dolphins' running attack is literally number 1 in the NFL. But man, it's they're going to negate our biggest strength, and that is our defensive line. Mm-hmm. They did really well. They're going to have to play an unbelievable game on Sunday night. But you look at this Eagles run defense, it's been good. It's been borderline elite. I mean, the Eagles have the number 2 run defense. They only allow 65.8 rushing yards per game.
Jordan Davis and Jalen Carter.
Yeah, Jordan Davis was sensational against the Jets. That's what sucks about that Jets loss, and gives me a bitter taste in my mouth. Is like if Jalen Hurts doesn't make that throw in the fourth quarter, we could be talking about an elite performance by the Eagles defensive line. And there's a lot of things to that. Like my quick thoughts on the Jets game. Like I think people are overreacting to Brian Johnson. Like I don't think the Eagles offensive line is getting as much criticism as they should. The Eagles offensive line was horrible.
Driscoll was terrible.
Bryce Huff took his lunch, man. That guy just
and Jermaine Johnson.
And I don't think we talked about that enough. That was the first game in a long time they looked truly exposed.
When we did the pregame show, like you mentioned Bryce Huff, and the one thing I had mentioned was the biggest key is going to be, can they get out of that game healthy? And they did. Like it felt like the fact that Lane Johnson is playing this week, that dude is a tough SOB. Like he is. I don't know what the heck he does, but I'm so glad he's an Eagle. Like he's an all-timer. Like his number is going to get retired. But like Eli Ricks, who's going to be back this week, he went down. Reed Blankenship off of an illegal blindside block on Lazard. Like he's going to be out this week. It's good that we get Slay back. It's good that we get Carter back.
Yeah, that's a big one.
But like speaking of when it's crazy that when Lane Johnson's not on the field, the Eagles offense is non-existent.
Yeah.
And it like I get it. He is one of the greatest right tackles of all time, the best right tackle in the NFL right now. But it should not the offense should not just stop and die because he goes. I get it that Opetta's there and he's not good. Like he's good against the pass, but against the run, not good at all. And then they have to compensate for for Lane Johnson being out. So Opetta's going to have to help Driscoll. Yeah. Kelsey's going to have to go where so you're hoping that Mailata and Dickerson are fine on the left side. You don't have to worry about them. Have Kelsey in the right guard and right tackle try to stop that, and it didn't work. And then the Eagles just didn't help Driscoll. They didn't start chipping until the last 2 drives of the game. Yeah. And why did it take so long for Brian Johnson, Nick Sirianni, whoever was making that decision? Why did it take so long to realize that Driscoll's getting beat like a drum? Help him out. Give him something. Give him a chance so that Hurts, as soon as he gets back to his last drop, he doesn't have pressure in his face.
That was my take. It was not the play calling. It was more so leaving Jack Driscoll on an island and expecting him to produce. That was a joke. That's my criticism. That's where criticism comes in with Brian Johnson. People, the play calling hasn't been great. Like, has Jalen Hurts been in rhythm within this offense like for more than a quarter this season? Probably not. They are extremely streaky offense. But that was the thing, was like that the fact that they just let Jack Driscoll get beaten like a drum by Bryce Huff and Jermaine Johnson again and again. That was the difference between kind of getting in that real estate of Jalen Hurts. And I truly think that was like the difference. So for me, like the adjustment to Lane Johnson's injury was way worse than the overreaction of the fans, the Eagles fans, about Brian Johnson, the lack of running. Like, they weren't getting anything on the ground at that time, especially up the middle. They were getting some production on runs outside, but like up the middle, they had nothing going for them, man.
CJ Mosley and Quincy Williams were really good at linebacker for the Jets. And looking at the linebackers for the Dolphins, I mean, they have Jalen Phillips, David Long, who's been pretty good against the run, Jerome Baker. Like, if the Eagles are able to get to the second level, if Dickerson or Kelsey or Opeta, whoever, if they're able to get to the second level and put bodies on them, that could open up lanes for Swift. Again, you have to keep this Dolphins offense off the field. But we saw what happened. Like, what Desai said this week, physicality can beat speed. And that's what Buffalo did to Miami. They got physical with them. But we don't have a Matt Milano at middle linebacker. Well, we don't have a Jordan Poyer or Micah Hyde at safety. So that, like, I think our front four is comparable to the Bills. Like, that game's going to be really good in a month. But, like, not having the type of linebackers and the safety play that the Bills have, that could come into play. I think our corners are. I mean, was Tre'Davious White? I don't remember if Tre'Davious White played that game, if he got hurt that game or whatever. But that's going to be key. I said it before and I'll say it again. That front four has to get pressure on Tua.
Yeah.
Because if they don't, I don't know how. Like, you saw in the Broncos game. I don't know when the Broncos and the Dolphins played, when Tyreek's first touchdown, the safety for the Broncos had an angle. What did Tyreek do? Ran right up the side. Like, it's ridiculous the speed that he has. You get them in the open space, it's not going to be a fun day for Darius. And Darius Slay has not played well yet this year.
Yeah, that you nailed it. Like, if there's an advantage for the Eagles against the Dolphins, the Eagles have to dominate in the trenches. Like, that's where the clear advantage is. Offensive line, defensive line, Jalen Carter coming back. They have to cement their will, and there's a good chance they do that. So for me, like, it starts with the defensive line. Like, I thought the Eagles were really creative against the Jets. We saw some like 5-man fronts. We saw there were some plays where there were 4 defensive tackles out there. I think Milton Williams continues to be underrated.
Oh yeah.
And like, there's some really interesting packages that we saw from Sean Desai last week, but this week's all about like. Sean Desai cannot be soft with his schemes this week. Like,
I love the creativity of Mike McDaniels. Like, the Dolphins are number 1 in motion. I think you mentioned it earlier. They move Hill, Waddle, they move everybody
80%.
Because
80% of their offensive plays involve some sort of pre-snap motion.
Yeah, because if they're in motion, you can't jam them, and that just they can find the open space. The Eagles are what, bottom 2, bottom 3 in the NFL?
I think they're last, man.
When it comes to motion, like, I want to see more creativity from Johnson and Sirianni. Like, we haven't seen it. They don't. It's like they want to. And when you're not in motion, it allows the defense to get set. They know who is covering who, and it doesn't allow Jalen to find out if it's a zone, if it's a man, if it's cover 2. Like, how is Jalen supposed to know that if you're not giving him the opportunity with the motion? And they need to start implementing that into the game plan. And this could be a good week. You have the weapons. AJ Brown is a physical freak. Jalen Ramsey's not playing. Xavier Howard will play on one side, and their other corner is Cater. I don't even know who that is. Cater Kohu. And then they have Eli Apple. Like,
Eli Apple draws a lot of penalties. I think he's a guy that draws a lot of penalties. That's the thing. Like, I love the comment you started off the show about this Dolphins team and how they kind of like give some Eagles vibes from 2022. because that's what they do on offense and that's what they do on defense. On offense, they want to they're all about explosive plays. They're all about attacking downfield. This is a team that has 16. They have pass plays of 16 yards or more, or rushes of 12 yards or more on 17.6% of their offensive snaps per True Media. They lead the NFL in explosive plays. And on defense, just like the Eagles last year, what they focus on is taking away the big play, just like the Eagles did with Jonathan Gannon. Like it's the same kind of
concept. Vic Fangio is their defensive coordinator, who, by the way, should be the Eagles' defensive coordinator. But different story for a different day. F you, Jonathan Gannon.
It's the same stuff. So like, it's going to be interesting to see what Brian Johnson schemes up against the Dolphins, because the Eagles are going to have to attack downfield. But then again, because I think the Dolphins looked their best with two high safeties, but with the Dolphins and their run defense and being bottom of the league, I think they're 27th in run defense DVOA. Like, there's clear advantages there. And we've seen Jalen Hurts, run the ball on design runs more over the last 2 weeks. We've seen some success with the Eagles. They need to, I'm one of those guys, man. I'm not the run the damn ball kind of guy. I'm more of a take what the defense gives you kind of guy. Brian Johnson abandon the run a little bit? Probably.
There were 14 carries by the running backs last week.
Yeah, yes. So for me, this is the game. This is absolutely the game where you just pin your ears back and just dominate time of possession and get those third and manageables. Because what the Dolphins are really bad at when it comes to defense is third down. They allow a 41% success rate, which is a bottom tier in the NFL. And the Eagles on the opposite end are one of the best teams in the NFL on third downs at extending drives at 50.6%. And this Dolphins defense gives up a ton of rushing first downs. They're tops or worst in the league when it comes to giving up rushing first downs. So this is one of those games where I'm throwing out all of my I don't know how I view the Eagles out the window. The Eagles zone run attack needs to dominate from the jump.
And I thought that last week too, and because the Jets aren't very good to run either. And then the fact that Swift is still 5th in the league in rushing, but only really has 4 true games to where he's ran the ball really well or had a chance to, is mind-boggling. He could be. I don't know if he would be up there. I don't know if he would have passed McCaffrey, but he would definitely be top 3 if they actually gave him the chance. And I get that Jalen, I'm glad Jalen has started to use his legs more the last couple of weeks. But when he is struggling in the past, and it's not just him, 2 of the interceptions last week, one was off Driscoll getting beat by Johnson. His arm got hit. The other was Dallas Goedert not holding on to the ball, got tipped out of his hand and right to Quinnen Williams. The Dallas Goedert one was just unlucky for him and Jalen, and that again, all interceptions shouldn't be charged to the quarterbacks. But hey, just I don't know if wins is a true quarterback stat, but it is what it is. If you see that the offensive line is struggling, if you see your quarterback is struggling a little bit, you got to help them out. Don't abandon. And I think and the fact that they were up 14-3 and still didn't run the football. That's what was a little worrisome. You're winning the game. You were winning the game up until the last 2 minutes, and that didn't stop or didn't have you think. And Sirianni be like, dude, just run the ball. I get it. He thinks those passes out to Swift or Gainwell is an extension of the running game. The screen can be an extension of the running game, but a lot of teams have had success running the ball on the Jets. You cannot abandon it the way they did. This is, I think. And we saw, I think it was Sirianni's first year's coach. Remember that Dallas game when they had 2 true runs, and then they overcompensated the next week? Would not shock me if this Sunday they overcompensate and they run the ball 35, 40 times. The first drive, if it's 3 consecutive handoffs to Swift, and that could be him. And if they don't get a first down, he'll look at, how he likes to look at the camera. That'll be him. This is why we don't run the ball. But I think having a Lane Johnson out there who at 80% or 70% is a lot better than 100% Driscoll. That'll help the offensive line. That'll help Opeta, because I think Opeta being between two Hall of Famers is definitely going to be huge for him. And like you said, you can run on this Dolphins defense. Just don't give up. Don't give up on it right away.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, this is one of those games where you want to see your offensive lineman in that second level. This is in Kelly Green jerseys in front of a home crowd. Like, this is one of those games. Oh, I can't wait, man! I can't wait. Like, we've been waiting for this one for a very long time. It's going to be beautiful. I'm not going to be at the game, but I'm going to be at the tailgate in all our glory. But it's going to be so much fun. Like, it's all in that offensive line to really kind of be elite and show that they are still the elite in the NFL. I was going back into this Dolphins offensive. No, I'm not going to touch on the offensive line. We already touched on that. But for just shits and giggles, ready for this one, man? Here's a fun stat. I'm going to throw this one to you. Do you know what Jalen Hurts' record when it comes to what his record is off of losses? Jalen Hurts bouncing back.
So they won the game after Washington. So that's a win. I'm trying to go back to his. Oh, we got to go back to his. He started the last 4 games of his rookie year, right?
Mm-hmm.
So I think he has lost 2. I'm trying to remember. I got to think of how many losses he has.
Ready for this?
Go ahead.
Jalen Hurts has played 29 consecutive regular season games dating back to 2021. Mm-hmm. He has not lost 2 games in a row in his career. You go back into college, his entire college career, he's never lost 2 games in a row.
Wait, wasn't so in Sirianni's first year, they lost to Tampa and then they lost to Vegas. He wasn't the quarterback both games?
I'm going to Google it. That was for The Athletic. So,
well, but if I'm, I don't know if I don't think he was hurt either of those 2 games.
I don't know, but at least last year when they lost against the Commanders, he came back, and then I think they had one more loss, and that was the.
Well, but the other 2 losses were Gardner Minshew. So
yeah,
but I think they haven't lost. The Eagles as a team haven't lost back-to-back games since 2021 when they lost to the Bucks on, I think it was a Thursday night game in Philly, and then went to Vegas the next week, and then they went on their run and made the playoffs in 2021. I do have a question for you though.
Yeah.
Jalen Hurts had the 3 interceptions. He had to have been his worst game as an Eagle. If not his worst, definitely one of his top 3 worst. Is that an anomaly?
Yeah.
Or have teams kind of started figuring him out a little bit?
I think it's a combination of so much, man. That's a loaded question. Yeah. It's a combination of the Eagles' offensive line not playing well. It's a combination of the lack of cohesion or identity between Brian Johnson and Jalen Hurts. It's the same offense. Like, if you look back between 6 weeks last year and 6 weeks this year, the numbers are all there. It's just the execution.
Turnovers are a big difference.
It's the execution, the red zone, the turnovers. It's all of the little things that are just killing the Eagles over and over and over again. I look at the RPO offense for the Eagles. It's truly been baby steps this year, where last year they were elite in the RPOs. They could not be stopped. What Jalen Hurts was so good at last year was making defenses guess wrong over and over and over again in those RPO situations, short, 3rd and short, 4th and short. Like, they won almost all of those. They've struggled with that. It seems like the Eagles' offense is so elite, like up until they get to the 20, and then things just sputter. Like, whether that's Brian Johnson and Kenny Gainwell thing, I don't know why the hell he's in the game to begin with, and not DeAndre Swift. The play calling, the screens to Quez Watkins, like, we could go on and on about some of the mistakes. Boston Scott. like give the ball to your playmakers. Stop being cute. But I don't think the game last week was one of Jalen Hurts' worst. Was the interception one of his worst throws as a professional? Absolutely. That you could easily chalk that up to being one of the worst. But like through 3 quarters, like that guy was under pressure, and I don't mean to be a homer here, but he was under pressure all game long. Like I said earlier, like if we don't have Jalen Hurts as quarterback in that game, we could be talking about one of the worst offensive line performances in a long time for the Philadelphia Eagles. That's how bad they were. Like Jalen Hurts was dragging Jets defenders and making completions. He was weaving in and out of pressure all game long and making throws. Everything just kind of collapsed in that fourth quarter with bad decision making, bad throws, bad play calling. And to be honest, like the Eagles just, I don't know what it is. I do look at Jalen Hurts, through 6 games. There has been something off this year, whether that's not seeing the field completely, whether that's, sitting too early, leaving the pocket too early. There have been flashes at times inside the pocket, showing poise, making big throws. But like the interceptions from the Jets, at least, like I don't get too hung up on those. We have seen a lot more heavy personnel from the Eagles this year. I think it's getting better and better. And if you look at the numbers with the RPOs, if you follow me on Twitter, like they're getting better too. So it's really just a work in progress. And to be honest, like we should have expected this with Brian Johnson, as a play caller. If anything, I'm not calling for a new offensive play caller. I'm not calling for Brian Johnson to be fired. Can we just have Nick Sirianni do the play calls once we get to the 20 freaking yard line? That all would be fixed after that, because that's the problem.
It makes me miss Shane Steichen a little bit.
Yeah,
so,
exactly.
Are the expectations too high for this team? Because like they won their first 5 games, and while Jalen is saying, look, the main thing's the main thing, it's just getting a win, we're like, you guys should be blowing teams out like you were last year. Like, have the expectations gotten so high for the Eagles, for Jalen Hurts, that regardless of what they do, unless they win a Super Bowl or put up 40 points and blow teams out, like we as fans, or not us, but like, Philadelphia Eagles fans won't be satisfied even if they win.
Yeah. Ready for this? Here, I put this on my Twitter. The Eagles have thrown for 30 less passing yards between the last 2 years at this point. The Eagles have ran for 36 less rushing yards between the last 2 years. And they have the same amount of rushing first downs the last 2 years. Yet people are you think the sky is falling. Like,
and the crazy thing is, it's because of the red zone, it's because of the turnovers, but aren't we still averaging like 28 points a game? Can you imagine if our red zone, if we went up 10 percentage points in the red zone, we would be over 30 points a game. Like, so that's why I asked the pressure, like the expectations question. Like, they're winning games. Obviously, last week was hopefully a blip in the radar, not something that we'll see a lot of going forward. But, like you just mentioned all those numbers. The offense is the same. It's just like when you look at the turnovers are up. The red zone percentage is down. Do you think now, when it comes to red zone, now I know he hasn't played yet this year, and
Julio Jones,
and I think that he's going to be active on Sunday, and I think they're going to give him a handful of plays with most of them in the red zone, and I think they'll say, we're going to use your bot, like, and hopefully Jalen can throw it up to him. Like, we don't know if Jalen can throw a fade route, like, because they don't do that often. But do you think Julio can be an answer? He's not the answer, but be somebody that could help the red zone?
I would imagine so. I think, like me personally, I don't really expect much from Julio Jones. I still probably would predict that Oz is still over him on the depth chart.
I think, especially early. I think you're right there.
Yeah, and we have Quentin saying red zone. We have Quentin saying player of the game, Julio in the red zone. Is that Julio down by the schoolyard or something? Yeah, all right. But anyway, I don't expect much from Julio Jones, to be honest. Like we'll see what that looks like in maybe 2 or 3 weeks, as the Sixers are losing by 10 here to the Hawks. But anyway,
it's a preseason game.
Come on, man. No, I don't know what to do with this Eagles offense. It's the play calling. My problem with Brian Johnson is this. When the Eagles are doing something well, they seem to abandon it like following the successive possessions. Like if they're running the football, DeAndre Swift, if they find a connection with AJ Brown or Devontae or Dallas Goedert, like what do you have, like 4 or 5 catches on that first freaking drive that 1 week? Was that last week? I'm not sure. I don't remember. I kind of blacked out last week. But anyway, like that's my criticism of Johnson is that there's no cohesion. The sequences within the Eagles offense makes me scratch my head.
One play to the next play does not make sense.
Yeah, there's no rhythm. And I think Hurts is paying the price for that. Again, I don't think Hurts was that bad. Again, if we had a different quarterback, like we would have a different narrative this week. I thought he played great not great. I thought he was very good through 3 quarters last week. But I don't really have an answer beyond it's just a collection of a lot of things. Like you look at the penalties across the offensive line. You look at the drops from Devontae.
That was uncharacteristic of him last week.
And like Johnny Page put out an amazing thread of all 22 against the Eagles and Jets. And one of them was the Devontae drop where he had 20 yards of
right in the hands.
Right in the hands. Like the throw that Hurts made escaping pressure to Kenny Gainwell on the sideline. That would have been a first down. Like there are plays like that that are just uncharacteristic. So going back to Johnson, it's just for me, like there's no identity with this offense. And I'm okay with that week to week, like, depending on the matchup. But he needs to help his quarterback. And they're just not on the same page. And I kind of expected Jalen Hurts to take a step back. I predicted that on my shows, for better or worse.
It would have been hard for him to replicate what he did last year.
It's hard, man. But again, going back, they're right at the same level of offense they were at this time last year. So are Eagles fans overreacting? Absolutely. Is the sky falling? No, it's not. It really is.
Not yet. I mean, so my thing is they Quentin. Let me go through some of these comments from Quentin. The offense needs more motion and shifts just before the snap to stress. We mentioned that earlier. You can't be bottom. Yeah, the Eagles are at the bottom of the league with that. Stop running. Maybe Julio's a good blocker. Maybe that's where you put. He's a big-bodied receiver. If you're going to run screens out to you run it to don't run one to. I know Quez is on IR, but when he comes back, please don't run. He doesn't hit the hole. That Rams game was, oh my God, that was so frustrating.
Like I don't like the fascination with Quez is unbelievable. Like I've never seen a team so fascinated with putting a player in the wrong position over and over and over again. Why the hell are you throwing to Quez behind the line of scrimmage? Why the hell are you throwing to Quez on a quick route?
Stop. Why the hell are you throwing to Quez?
He's supposed to be stretching the field. He's supposed to be stretching the field for the Eagles. But they already have that with AJ Brown and Devontae and things like that. Like, he's so redundant. Get the hell off my football team, Quez Watkins.
Yeah, Olamide is a better 3 receiver than Quez. So hopefully when Quez comes back, that they don't throw him out there as the number 3 and force feed him the ball, which, like you just said, makes 0 sense. Damn, I wanted to say something and I can't remember now. But yeah, like when look, I just think, like you said, there was the inevitable step back for Hurts. But when you give somebody $250 million, and then I felt like the first 3 or 4 games of the season, they told him not to run because remember, whenever anybody would get near him, he's dropping, he's ducking. And it's like they told him, don't get hit. And then against the Rams, he started running more. He started running a little bit more against the Jets. You have to allow Jalen to be Jalen. That's why you gave him the money. If you're taking away an aspect of his game, what was the point of giving him a $250 million contract?
Yeah.
It makes no sense. Like, I get it. There's that injury concern because of the type of quarterback he is, and we saw what happened last year when he got hurt, and he had to come back early. He had to come back during that Giants game, when the last game of the year, when he shouldn't have had to come back. But yeah, like, hopefully they let Jalen be Jalen and he gets back to being the guy that he wants. So before we get to, players of the game and prediction, the Eagles added Julio to the offense. I expected them to make a trade or a move in the secondary. And I'm not talking Josiah Scott, who's terrible, but he's going to play. I'm not talking for Victor Holder, whatever the heck. I don't even know who he is. Oh, nice dog. I got distracted by the dog. I was anticipating a trade for a safety. We have 2 healthy safeties. I think if he didn't get put on IR, Jeremy Chin would have been that guy, but he's out for 6 weeks.
Yeah.
Justin Simmons, Buda Baker's questionable this week. He's going to come off of IR. Do you think after the safeties get exposed this week, because it's probably going to happen, does Howie it's not his cup of tea to go out there and spend on a safety, but they have a need. Even if Reed Blankenship comes back, they still need another safety. And if they do it, who do you think they might get before the trade deadline, which is 11 days away?
My vibe right now is I don't think they do. I think they're literally banking on Reed to continue to shine. I mean, Reed Blankenship is
he's one.
Probably the biggest
safeties.
Yeah, I think he's probably the most unsung hero of this defense. When he's in the ball game, he's phenomenal. He's such a key component.
This is the second year in a row he got hurt now.
I know. That's well said. I still think the Eagles probably should address the safety position in the draft. But I just do not think Howie values the position at all. Look at Zach Cunningham. Look at Nick Morrow. Like, these are guys that they got for nothing. So if you're expecting a big name for the Eagles to bring in at safety, I don't think it's going to happen. I truly don't. I think.
So I think even though he's out for 6 weeks, they make a move for Chin. So they'll have him here. He can learn the defense while he's on IR.
I like it.
And then when he comes back, because he was a backup for the Panthers, and I think he got kind of pushed into service last week, and that's how he got hurt. But they need something. Look, I know you're a big Reed fan because you were talking about Reed before last year, and he made the team as a UDFA. Yeah. But second year in a row he's gotten hurt. He is he's a heat-seeking missile type of guy, but he can also be beat in coverage, and they need somebody that. And I'm not saying Jeremy Chin is the guy that is going to solve all the coverage issues in the secondary or at the safety position, but Terrell Edmonds isn't good. We don't know what we have in Sidney Brown. We'll find out this week because he's going to pretty much play. Justin Evans is out. So yeah, they're really hurting at the wrong time. They're hurting at the secondary. What's up, Mitch? Quentin says Reed's injury isn't soft tissue or lingering issue. He did, but still, it's this. What did he hurt last year? Didn't he hurt a rib last year too?
God, I do not remember. I do not. But
I really wish we could have found a way. I know he's hurt now, and I don't know.
I don't think he's playing this weekend, right? I'm pretty sure he's out.
No, Reed's out.
Yeah, Reed's out.
He's out. But
yeah, so, I really want to see what Sidney Brown's all about. He really hasn't gotten a fair shake this season so far. I think he's going to come with a lot of growing pains. Is he going to miss tackles? Yes. But he's a guy that kind of like Reed Blankenship, can play up at the line, can play in the box, can drop back in coverage, can play in the slot. He's got the athleticism you're looking for. In a lot of areas the Eagles lack, like playing Eli Ricks in the slot is a mistake. Playing Mekhi Mekhi Garner at safety is a mistake. Like,
well, they were forced into that. Like they didn't have
I know, but like they need Sidney Brown. They and given his draft selection, given like his, I had him as I think a high second round value, I believe. I was a big Sidney Brown guy. I think he offers exactly what you're looking for, that hip twitch to kind of play it all along this Eagles secondary. So for me, like let's see what Brown's got first. That's my take. But I agree, Terrell Edmonds sucks. He's awful.
It is. I don't want to say fearful, but Sidney Brown's first start, and he's got Tyreek Hill and Jalen Waddle running at him. Good luck, buddy. It's kind of a little fearful there.
Yeah.
All right.
I don't know what they do, man. This is just a horrible matchup. Like you look back at Jonathan Gannon's defense, like this is not.
The Eagles were lucky last year. 22 of 22 starters in the Super Bowl. They didn't really suffer major injuries. Like it's all coming back now. Like all these injuries and at the worst time happening for the Eagles.
Yeah. Yeah, absolutely. But you also look at it on the other end, right? Like you can look at it from a complete 180 perspective. Like the Eagles are coming off a tough loss. The Miami Dolphins are riding high.
Mm-hmm.
It's in Philly. Like this could be the game they finally put it together on both sides. We'll see.
And if you think about it, like while they're not technically facing each other, the Tua and Jalen backstory of all the Alabama thing, Devontae and Jalen were teammates at Alabama. Like there is a backstory here where like Tua took over for Jalen and Jalen had to transfer, whatever. But like he took it all in stride. Like that year that he sat behind Tua and then ended up coming into a game because Tua got hurt and I think he beat Georgia, if I'm not mistaken. He beat somebody. But like he was the ultimate teammate. And I know that they're still friends and whatnot, but like he's gonna want to go out there and prove something. Now, before we get question, who do you think is better, Tua or Jalen? Tough question, right?
I'm gonna go Tua. Sorry.
Because I was asked that question earlier, and I said they're the same because they get asked to do different things in their offenses. Like Tua is perfect for the Mike McDaniel offense. Jalen is perfect for this offense. If they were to flip, I don't know if Tua could run the Eagles offense, and I don't know if Jalen could run that Dolphins offense. For what they're asked to do, I think they're kind of perfect, if that makes any sense.
Yeah, my take is if Brian Johnson doesn't figure out how to get this Eagles RPO offense back to that elite level again, I have concerns because, let's be honest, Jalen Hurts as a passer, inside or outside the pocket, he's probably like average, above average. If you take away his legs from his style, he's probably an average quarterback. Like he's probably an average NFL quarterback. The Eagles, Brian Johnson has to figure out a way to keep this thing progressing in the right direction.
And that's why I said if you're giving him $250 million, let him be Jalen. Now, this is an interesting question from Quentin. What do you think the record after this tough stretch? All right, here are the 8 games. Dolphins, Commanders, Cowboys, by Chiefs, Bills, Niners, Cowboys, Seahawks. What do you think the Eagles' record is after those 8 games?
What's after the Seahawks?
Well, it's Giants, Cardinals, Giants. We're not worried about those. So Dolphins, Commanders, Cowboys, Chiefs, Bills, 49ers, Cowboys, Seahawks. And they're at the Cowboys and at the Seahawks.
All right, here we go. I'll do it right now. And spoiler warning.
And this is where losing last week, they couldn't afford to lose last week.
Spoiler warning, I do think the Eagles lose this weekend. So 5-2. They beat the Commanders 6-2. They beat the Cowboys 7-2. They lose to the Chiefs 7-3. They beat the Bills 8-3. They're going to lose to the Niners. That is their Super Bowl. So what's that? 9-4?
8-4.
8-4. I'm going to say they lose to the Cowboys at home 8-5, and they beat the Seahawks. They seem to do okay against Seattle.
So 9-5.
9-5.
They don't do okay against Seattle. That's the bad.
No,
no. But Russell Wilson was also the quarterback when they couldn't beat Seattle. So in this 8-game stretch, and this is when I said that you couldn't afford to lose to the Jets, because I think you can lose potentially 4 games and still get the number 1 seed. If in this 8-game stretch you go 4-4, you're at 5 losses already.
Yeah,
and that's not good because I don't know if 12-5 is getting you the number 1 seed. So 13-4, but yeah, spoiler alert, I think the Dolphins win as well. So that's 5-2. They beat the Commanders 6-2, beat the Cowboys 7-2, 7-3 if they lose to the Chiefs, 8-3 beat the Bills, 9-3 beat the Niners. They're splitting with the Cowboys, so it'll be 9-4. I'd say they'll be 10-4 after this stretch.
That's the difference, right? Like, I feel like the Eagles crept up. Is that the word? They snuck up on opponents in 2022. Like this year, like they're getting every single team.
We're everybody's Super Bowl.
Yeah, exactly. Like that was my point. Is like there's no gimmies in this thing whatsoever. Like it's tough, man. That's like the Jets, the Commanders. Like even though the Commanders are always kind of giving the Eagles problems, like that's their game. Like that's the Niners from last year in that NFC Championship game. Like they have circled that game on their schedule, as we know, and they're going to go all in for that W, even though it probably doesn't mean anything. At the end of the day, it's the same thing. The Eagles just need to keep getting better. They need to stay healthy and clean up the mistakes. And if they do that, I think the talent's going to win at the end.
Yeah. All right. So let's get to the predictions. Give me you can just stick with Eagles players. I mean, if you want to give a Dolphins one, you can. Your offensive player to watch, your defensive player to watch, and your score.
All right. So on Birds of the Round Table, I went Dolphins win 31-30. I think this is going to be a great game. For my Eagles player to watch, I'm just going to keep the train rolling, and it's Jalen Carter. He's the best player on the defense. If there's a matchup, if there's a reason you get a turnover from Tua, it's a swim move or a bull rush or something from Jalen Carter to force an errant throw from Tua that maybe leads to an interception, because this is all about getting stops. This game is all about getting the Dolphins stops, and Jalen Carter has a very good advantage there on that interior against the Dolphins. I really like the tackles. Like I think his name's Austin Jackson for the Dolphins, who's also been very underrated this year. So they're good on the outside, but on the inside, the Dolphins are a little weak, and that's where Jalen Carter can eat,
especially if Connor Williams doesn't play.
Yeah. So I'm going to go Jalen Carter. My player of the game prediction was Tua. I just don't know if the Eagles have an answer for that style of get the ball out fast to their speedsters and 31-30 Dolphins.
I have 34-27 Dolphins. I also think it's going to be a really good game. When the line came out and the Eagles are favored and they're still favored, like it's telling me something, and I don't like. Obviously, I want the Eagles to win, and I didn't feel good after Sunday after the Jets game, and I was like, how are the Eagles favored? It makes no sense.
Yeah. And
then I started feeling better, but then all the back end of the secondary, and I was like, all right, well, Tua might hit his. I think he's at 814 yards. He needs 186 yards to get to 1,000 in 7 games. He might do that this week. It could get ugly.
I saw a stat that Tyreek Hill is on pace for 2,300 yards and 17 touchdowns this year.
It's crazy, the numbers that he is putting on. And AJ is second in the NFL, but he's still 120 or 150. He's 150 yards behind Tyreek, and AJ's second in the NFL. He has 4 games in a row at 125 plus yards receiving, and the secondary for the Dolphins isn't that good, so he might have another 125-plus yard game.
Yeah.
We'll see. So I have the Dolphins winning as well, 34-27. I think if the Eagles want to win on the defensive side of the ball, they're going to have to get after Tua. And what Hassan Reddick has done since he's gotten his cast off, he's got 5.5 sacks in like the last 3 games.
Yeah.
So he's going to have to get after Tua. And
Take him out. Take him out.
Yeah. And if the quicker that front line can get to Tua, it won't force Darius Slay and James Bradbury, Eli Ricks, Josiah Scott. It won't force them to cover long. On the offensive side of the ball, it's got to be Jalen. He has to protect the football. I know, like you said, he didn't have his worst game last week, but just like if somebody didn't watch the game and looked, he had 3 turnovers or 3 interceptions, that can't happen. Obviously, 2 of them weren't his fault, but he has to be smart with the football. Him and Brian Johnson have to get that rhythm together. So I'm going to go Jalen Hurts. I'm going to go Hassan Reddick, but I have the Dolphins winning 34-27. But damn, those jerseys are going to look awesome on Sunday Night Football.
I can't wait. Been waiting for it.
Chef's kiss. Dobbs, thank you for joining. What did Quentin say? Maybe Vegas doesn't like Miami's strength of schedule, away game, Eagles rushing it. And that has a lot to do with it. It's just I just had a bad feeling coming off of that game against the Jets. Like, you can't lose to Zach Wilson and the Jets.
Yeah, for real.
Just made no sense. Dobbs, thank you for jumping in. And again, tell everybody where they can find you and what you have coming up.
Mr. Crockpot on Twitter. I'm not really active on Twitter, but I have the weekend off, man. It's my birthday weekend, so
happy birthday.
I'm gonna be enjoying it. We're meeting up with Shane and everybody at the Eagles tailgate. It's gonna be a blast. That's gonna be a lot of fun. But if you love NFL draft, if you love shorts, if you love everything college football and Eagles and Sixers, and as we gear up for this Sixers season, nobody cares about the Sixers. That's the fact. No, I'm excited for the Phillies game. So expect a ton of Phillies shorts. As I put out like 8 to 10 shorts every single game. So if you love shorts and Phillies, go frickin' Phillies. Screw the Sixers.
So who's the Georgia player that the Eagles are drafting next year in the first round? Brock Bowers?
That's a great question.
I
don't think there is a Georgia first round. I mean, Malachi Starks. There's some interesting players, but I don't think they have a legit first round guy beyond Brock Bowers. There's definitely some Alabama guys, but yeah, it's a different year.
Dallas Turner, but he's going to go top 5. Right?
Dallas Turner. I don't know. He's had a.
I want Jeremiah Trotter. The Eagles taking a first round linebacker is not happening.
No, never. Dallas Turner could be an intriguing trade up. The Eagles live and die with defensive line in the first round. I would go Dallas Turner as the most realistic target because you got Jared Verse, you've got some other big guys.
I remember we did a
wide receiver in terms of value, in terms of where they're drafting. Like, this draft is so freaking deep at wide receiver. Malik Neighbors, Keon Coleman, Troy Franklin, like it goes on and on. Guys that could be available at the back end of round 1. I think the Eagles could get like an amazing wide receiver 3 for next year that could develop into a 2 or a 1B.
My only thing about the wide receivers is they're going to have to pay Devontae next year, and if AJ keeps playing the way he's going to play, his $25 million a year is going to be a bargain, and he's going to want a new deal.
Yeah.
So that's my only issue with the.
They need a slot. They need a slot guy.
I agree.
Yeah.
They need somebody that has speed.
Like have you seen Roma Dunze?
Who's he play for?
He plays for Washington.
I watched the game last week, but I don't.
He's 6'3", amazing route runner, just a dominant player, man. Roma Dunze, like, again, I love this wide receiver class so much. And don't take away offensive tackle.
Because Lane's only got a couple years left.
Yeah, there's definitely some really intriguing ones like Patrick Paul. Gosh.
All right, we're gonna hold this draft conversation till after the Super Bowl. We don't want to talk. We don't want to have to get. We don't want to have to get into draft conversation now. We want to get all the way to February and into Vegas. But no, like follow Dives. He's really good really great when it comes to the college stuff. His work is definitely top notch. So definitely give him a follow. Follow the Kelly Green Hour on Twitter at Kelly Green Hour. Follow me on Twitter at LJRaw54. And follow Edge of Philly Sports on Twitter, YouTube, Facebook. Just search Edge of Philly Sports, and you can find all the previous shows and all the upcoming shows. Thank you all that have tuned in, and we appreciate you for listening to the Kelly Green Hour.